Hello, welcome to the Scream for Peace show. It is a beautiful Monday morning in San Francisco. Thanks for joining us. We're just shuffling around, getting everything set here, but today's show is going to be talking about a very serious topic, and that is comedy. Serious comedy. And we will be discussing several, I think, historically important comedians who have visited our existence and made life a little more interesting. And then we've got some special guests in the studio. We've got Sergio and Jessica's here. We got... There we go. Oh. No, gotcha.
Hello.
Let's pull that up.
Any of ourselves over there.
So we're just we'll be continuing to get set here, and do we hear you there, Mike? Hello. Nope, not quite. But in the studio, we'll have joining us on the mics here in a minute is also San Francisco comedian and host of the P.e.a.c.e show, Juan Medina. And we'll be discussing some history of San Francisco comedy, as well as the powerful nature of comedy to actually sustain change and raise awareness. Throughout time, certainly as the mass media emerged, we have seen a plethora of new comedians and thought provokers come up. And one of the things that I remember as a kid, one of my favorite comedians was George Carlin, who would often bring about and talk about some of the things that you kind of thought was kind of obvious, but he would contextualize some of the most horrible things about reality in a funny manner that made it palatable and pleasant to... Shall we hear a clip? Oh, you have some George Carlin there?
Yeah.
What do you...
This is actually from his final work.
Oh, right towards the end of his career?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do we have the mics up?
We have no sound, no.
Okay, we're going to continue working on the mics and listen to little George Carlin.
I think
I got you.
there you go. Potty.
You don't
Want? There
do
we
you have
go.
Me?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
hear anything.
Yeah,
Well,
But you hear me great.
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, we do.
we're heard.
This is seriously not
Listen,
funny.
but not hear. Seriously?
You can hear yourself?
No, really, a little bit.
I can't hear myself.
Maybe play.
So we'll be talking about some.
Myself.
Yeah. We'll be talking about comedians who lived a tragic life, who met an early death, and at the same time raised the consciousness of everyone they encountered. So we're going to kick off the show with little George Carlin, and we'll be back in a second.
Bible. Does this stuff really matter? Which hand? Does God really give a fuck about details like this? Suppose you put your right hand in the Bible, you raise your left hand. Would that count? Or would God say, sorry, wrong hand, try again? And why does one hand have to be raised? What is the magic in this gesture? This seems like some sort of a primitive voodoo mojo shtick. Why not put your left hand on the Bible, let your right hand hang down by your side? It's more natural. Or put it in your pocket. Remember what your mother used to say? Don't put your hands in your pockets. Does she know something we don't know? Is this hand shit really important? Well, let's get back to the Bible, America's favorite national theatrical prop. Suppose the Bible they hand you to swear on is upside down, or backward, or both, and you swear to tell the truth on an upside down backward Bible. Would that count? Suppose the Bible they hand you is an old Bible and half the pages are missing. Suppose all they have is a Chinese Bible in an American court, or a Braille Bible and you're not blind. Suppose they hand you an upside down backward Chinese Braille Bible with half the pages missing. At what point does all of this stuff just break down and become just a lot of stupid shit that somebody made up? They fucking made it up, folks. It's make-believe. It's make-believe. Now, all right. Okay. Let's leave the Bible aside. We'll get back to the science fiction reading later. The more important question is, what is the big deal about swearing to God in the first place? Why does swearing to God mean you're going to tell the truth? Wouldn't affect me. If they said to me, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God, I'd say, yeah. I'll tell you about as much truth as the people who wrote that fucking Bible. How do you like that? Huh? Swearing on the Bible doesn't mean anything. It's kid. Swearing to God is kid stuff. Remember when you were a kid, if you told another kid something he didn't quite believe, he'd say, you swear to God? I would always say, yeah, I swear to God, even if I was lying. Why not? What's going to happen if I lie? Nothing. Nothing happens if you lie, unless you get caught, and that's a whole different story. Sometimes a kid would think he was being slick with me, and he'd say, you swear on your mother's grave? I say, yeah. Why not? First of all, my mother was alive. She didn't even have a grave. Second of all, even if she was dead, what's she going to do? Rise from the grave and come and haunt me? Come and haunt me? All because I told a lie to an 8-year-old? Get fucking real, will you? Sometimes I would say, I swear on my mother's tits. Kids are impressed with things like that. I mean, I don't care about my mother's tits either. I don't care if they fell off. Fuck her. Not my problem. They're your tits, Ma. You keep an eye on them. Swearing to God doesn't mean anything. Swearing on the Bible doesn't mean anything. You know why? Because Bible or no Bible, God or no God, if it suits their purposes, people are going to lie in court. The police do it all the time. All the time. Yes, they do. It's part of their job to protect, to serve, and to commit perjury whenever it supports the state's case. Swearing on the Bible is just one more way of controlling people and keeping them in line, and it's one more thing that holds us back as a species. Here's one more item for you, the last in our civics book, rights. Boy, everyone in this country is always running around yammering about their fucking rights. I have a right, you have no right, we have a right, they don't have a right. Folks, I hate to spoil your fun, but there's no such thing as rights, okay? They're imaginary. We made them up, like the boogeyman. The Three Little Pigs, Pinocchio, Mother Goose, shit like that. Rights are an idea. They're just imaginary. They're a cute idea. Cute. But that's all. Cute and fictional. But if you think you do have rights, let me ask you this. Where do they come from? People say, well, they come from God. They're God-given rights. Oh, fuck. Here we go again. Here we go again. The God excuse. The last refuge of a man with no answers and no argument. It came from God. Anything we can't describe must have come from God. Personally, folks, I believe that if your rights came from God, He would have given you the right to some food every day, and He would have given you the right to a roof over your head. God would have been looking out for you. God would have been looking out for you. You know that? He wouldn't have been worried about making sure you have a gun so you can get drunk on Sunday night and kill your girlfriend's parents. But let's say it's true. Let's say God gave us these rights. Why would He give us a certain number of rights? The Bill of Rights in this country has 10 stipulations, okay? 10 rights. And apparently God was doing sloppy work that week because we've had to amend the Bill of Rights an additional 17 times. So God forgot a couple of things like slavery. Just fucking slipped His mind. But let's say God gave us the original 10. He gave the British 13. The British Bill of Rights has 13 stipulations. The Germans have 29. The Belgians have 25. The Swedish have only 6. And some people in the world have no rights at all. What kind of a fucking goddamn God-given deal is that? No rights at all? Why would God give different people in different countries different numbers of different rights? Boredom? Amusement? Bad arithmetic? Do we find out at long last after all this time that God is weak in math skills? Doesn't sound like divine planning to me. Sounds more like human planning. Sounds more like one group trying to control another group. In other words, business as usual in America. Now,
Business as usual in America. There's some wise words from George Carlin, and always nice to hear him talking about the God thing. So we're back. We have all of our mics synced up and everything. Can we hear you? Can we get a sound check there?
Oh,
there we go.
good morning.
Chickadee check.
Good morning.
So we're joined in the studio with a special guest, Juan Medina from Chew Hustle Entertainment.
That's right.
Yes,
We are
yes.
not a rap record label.
Is there any ever rap included in any of your shows? I would imagine there has to. It's got to fit its way in there somehow.
Well, we actually just signed our first rap. We're an entertainment group, and we just signed our first rap group. But before that, there was no rap. I mean, I think some comedians might have rapped during one of
During
our
the
comedy shows, but no one really was a rapper, serious rapper.
And you are a serious comedian.
I'm very serious. Actually, it's funny. I was walking the other day, and I was just thinking about how comedy is serious.
It is serious.
It's pretty
It's a very
serious.
serious thing.
I mean, we talk about some pretty serious issues. I think
It's dark and serious.
I mean, most comedy is dark. I mean, there's not too many lighthearted comedians. I mean, most comedy addresses pretty serious issues, I think.
And I think some of the most profound. You look at what we just heard a clip from George Carlin. He points out some of the most ridiculous inconsistencies in controversial subjects like God and the government, and does it in a way that if somebody just said the exact same thing without being funny, it would just go over their head. It's like,
Absolutely.
oh, I've heard that before, or it doesn't matter, or it doesn't affect me, I don't care. But he and I think that's the craft of comedy. But as a comedian, do people walk up to you and just say, "Oh, you're a comedian? Make me laugh. Say something funny."
They don't say something funny. They don't say make me laugh. They say tell me a joke.
Tell you a joke. Yeah. Do you have one for that?
It depends on if I like them or not. If I like them, but a lot of times I'll just have a conversation with them. I'll say, well, it doesn't really work that way. And it's because I don't know. I don't think when people tell you make me laugh, that's a weird, I don't think they want me to make them laugh. I think
They want to see you not laugh. They want to see you flounder.
well, I think there's a small percentage of that, but I think mostly they're like saying surprise me. But it's like, how can I surprise you when you're expecting it? Everyone.
Right.
I mean, what I will do though is I'll talk to them normally and then sneak in a joke, and then they'll laugh, and I'll be like, well, that was one of my jokes. Because I mean, I have an ego too. I don't want to tell them a joke and then have it fall flat, and they're like, well, keep trying, hang in there.
Right.
Surprise is a big part of it, and particularly in my style of comedy, I'm all about misdirection. So,
And if I could address that, I met Juan at the P.e.a.c.e show. You had a P.e.a.c.e show when it was at the basement of the sports basement.
in the
Correct.
performance area called
And
the Grotto. Yeah.
And how often do you perform there?
Well, Chew Hustle puts on two shows a month. One, Good Times in the Grotto. That's the second Friday of every month, which is free beer and free snacks. And then the other one is on the fourth Friday of every month, which is the PM show, my late night talk show format. And that's also free with free beer. I don't know. I'm promoting. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what you're here for. But I got to say, I mean, I think I've said this before. I'm not a big fan of comedy.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. You seem like you have a lot of joy in your heart. And
Yet he calls me and say, "Hey, Jessica, let's go to that comedy show."
no, really?
Well, let me tell you why. And let me tell you
Please.
why. Because I didn't see the PM. I was actually with no predisposition. I mean, we met once at briefly, over lunch, and that was it. So I had no predisposition towards it. But normally, like if I go to a comedy show, I've been to Cobb's and I've been to various shows, venues throughout the city, and I see an array of people get up trying to be funny, and sometimes I would laugh, but overall, I would kind of be deflated in that they weren't. It's not that they weren't funny enough. It's just that they weren't addressing issues that I really gave a shit about.
Yeah.
I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just want to be entertained. Sometimes you want to be enlightened.
Yeah.
But when I came to your show, I thought there was some innovation there. You really had me. There was I don't know if acting or performance would be the exact right words, but the format, you had a very sort of Tonight Show like late night talk show format. But I think it went beyond that. You really put in a character. You got into a character. I saw with the hats, and you really had me going though when you started telling everybody you were tripping on LSD, and you're like, no, really, and because I thought that moment was critical and thing, because I think you bridged the gap of surrealism, because people in the audience were like, wait a minute, is this, is this a joke, or
well, you're the perfect audience member. And I think that's because I want the show to be that way. I want people to feel like it's a permeable show, but I want that permeability to scare people a little bit, where it's like, okay, I can interact in this show, but if I interact, these are really keen minds, and am I really going to, I don't mind if anyone wants to participate in my show, but if you're going to contribute, I just want you to be present and responsive.
Yeah.
And an audience member like you who's actually watching and getting, that's good. I'm glad you like the LSD part.
Now, was that kind of, or the show in general, is it scripted out? Do you plan everything out ahead? Is it somewhat impromptu?
50% of it is planned out. We have a basic format, which is we have the live band, our 4-piece jazz band, Tacos, 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 which always warms up the crowd with music.
Yeah.
And then I'll come out and do not a monologue. I don't know if I want to do a monologue, but I'll just do what we call housekeeping, which is I just remind people what's going on here, why it's going on. Then to get people acquainted with the format, I interview my co-host, who is usually the very hilarious Jesse Head, awesome comedian, and my co-host. And then once I let them see the way the format works, which is just, for the most part, the stand-up comedy is great. I love watching people perform, but the point of it is to see what they're like when they're not performing, and to try in the 5 to 7 minutes that I have interviewing them, see if I can wear them down enough that they're themselves for a few minutes, and let people see that. And then that's the basic format, but we throw in there, I think on your show, we had a PowerPoint presentation by Scott Simpson. And, obviously, when I interview people, I put on the hats, and different hats elicit different characters.
How many hats do you have?
I think right now I have 2 hats and 2 masks. I have a cowboy hat, which puts me like this kind of lighthearted cowboy that's just an idiot. He doesn't know anything that's going on. And then I have a hamburger hat, Señor Hamburguesa, which is just kind of a man who just is obsessed with cheeseburgers, and there's some other weird stuff. If you have a hat, please give it to me.
Oh, I have plenty of hats. I will hook you up with hats.
Please.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
good.
Do you remember that episode on Reading Rainbow where LeVar Burton goes into a hat store, and every time he puts on a different hat, he travels to a different world?
Oh, I didn't see that. No.
That's kind of the inspiration for it.
Okay. And you kind of did that. You kind of went into a different character each time with each hat you put on. And how long has this been going on, and what got you into being funny?
Well, the show's been going on for 1 year this month. So this month is our 1 year anniversary.
And now is that for True Hustle or for the PM show?
The PM show.
PM show. Now, True Hustle's been around. You got some interesting stuff. You have Pick Me Up Radio. You have a calendar, True Arts Education.
That's right.
What is the True Arts Education about, and how long has this been going on?
The True Arts Education is still currently in development, but it's the branch of True Hustle that's being developed by my partner and founder of True Hustle, Anthony Medina. And it's created to address a need in public schools for supplemental artistic education. So what we're doing is providing, he's already developed the whole curriculum. He's in talks right now to actually get it implemented in schools. But the idea is just basically, I didn't have any stand-up comedy classes in elementary, middle school, or high school.
Yeah, I didn't actually. Those were not offered electives.
And so what we want to do is we're partnering with another comedy production company called Sylvan, which is very prominent here in San Francisco, and we're going to provide stand-up comedy, performance writing, and sketch and improv writing classes. So we just basically want to give kids an outlet, an opportunity. Not everybody likes sports, not everybody's into music. Some people just like making people laugh, and we want to do that for those kids.
And almost everybody likes to laugh.
I think most people like to laugh. I don't think I've ever met someone that doesn't like to laugh. They'll say they don't like to laugh, but then you'll catch them laughing, and then it's something really unique, really interesting.
And so that's very cool. So with True Hustle, you've got comedians. It's mostly comedy-oriented stand-up. It looks like there's some other stuff too.
Well, we're starting, like I told you, we just recently, I mean, I wish if I were more professional, I'd know the name of the rap group. But we recently signed a rap group, which is excellent. I mean, I heard their music and I was really impressed. But yeah, we're branding ourselves. We want to develop ourselves as an entertainment company, not just a stand-up comedy company.
Yeah, and looks like you're headed in. And you got a nice little crew, about 4 or 5 people in it. How big is the whole operation?
We've got 5 principal members, and I think we provide more stage time for comedians than any other production company in the Bay Area, as far as I know. I mean, independently, yes, absolutely.
And you book them in comedy shows, things like that. So
we have a lot at a lot of levels. We have book showcases. We have open mics. Yeah, we have.
So if somebody was a budding comedian and they had 5 minutes of solid stuff, they could actually call you guys up for an an audition and try to have you represent them to book them. Is that the way it works, or what do you?
We usually the way that we go about it is we have open mics. So first we let people come out to the open mics, and if we see that they're, we think, hey, this person would be a good fit for this show, and we like them. I mean, a big thing is we have to like you. Comedy is very personal. We're always hanging out. We're at the same open mics, the same showcases. So they come out, they're funny, we like them. We have a show that's coming up, we think they're appropriate. Yeah, that's.
Do you have to like them? Like, let's say somebody came up and they were just killer on stage and a complete douchebag off. Would you just tell them to walk? Well,
sometimes I'll see someone and I'm like, or I'll meet someone or I'll know someone and I don't like the person. But I'll ask Anthony. I'm, sober-minded enough to ask Anthony. I'm like, hey, I don't really like this guy. He kind of rubs me the wrong way. But do you think he's funny? Do you think he'll be good for the show? If Anthony says yeah, then I'll book him. Emotions aside or personal things. We try not to be too personal. We try to be as professional as possible.
Yeah. In your experience, are comedians pretty much the same off stage as they are on, or is there a radical difference?
I mean, there are some comedians that are absolutely the same on and off. There are some that when you see on stage is just them highlighting one aspect of themselves. And that's pretty much it. I don't think I've ever met anyone that's been fake. I don't think it's hard to be fake.
A fake comedian?
I think it's pretty hard. Really? I think so. I think, I don't know. The other thing too is I don't spend that much time with all these comedians. I hope they're not being fake. It would seem like for me personally, that would be very challenging. I don't think it would be healthy.
Yeah, well, a lot of comedians are not healthy.
Well, that's true.
I mean, look at all the drug usage. You see all the ODs. We had a list of a handful of comedians, famous comedians, all died from drug overdoses, and there's something dark going on in their lives, and that was kind of what inspired today's show, was exploring the darker side of comedy, and why comedians live such a tragic life. I mean, but not all of them do. It's like you take Andy Kaufman, who died relatively young. It was cancer, supposedly. There's also the scuttlebutt that he's still alive and kicking it somewhere.
That's right.
But Chris Farley, John Belushi, Bill Hicks,
That's right.
died I think that was just from smoking, though, wasn't it?
He died of cancer.
Yeah, he was a smoker, heavy smoker. But Lenny Bruce, another one. They were addressing very serious topics and making it funny. But I think in some ways, some of the things I look at in analysis is the comedy lays. This is why I often say I don't like comedy, and it's not all comedy, of course. When I say that, it's kind of for effect, but it's like it's masking the abuse of society. It's on a global scale. So, for example, how many Americans do you think, particularly I'd say under the 25 range, would say they get most of their news from the Daily Show and Comedy Central?
Oh man, I think it's pretty high.
It's pretty high, right?
Yeah.
Now that if you look at who's behind the news and who's really doing it, they're mocking and they're making fun, and the same people own the stations that
That's right.
they're attacking. So why do they let them stay on? Why? Because what they're doing is they're softening and dampening the true horrors of the world through comedy.
I see and that's unhealthy.
It is, and so when I say I don't like comedy, that's really specifically the aspect of it that I don't like, because people watch the Daily Show or Colbert Report, and they think that because they have the aura of being liberal and being the good guys and poking fun at the status quo, that they're actually doing a service. But in some ways, it's kind of like kissing somebody after slapping them in the face. The damage is done.
Yeah.
And so what they're doing is they're allowing people, like, I think unconsciously, people can look at this stuff. For example, all the fucking wars we're in. People do not understand that America is not a country at war. We're a warring country. Everything we do has to do with the domination and the destruction of other countries, the ongoing daily slaughter and murder of innocent women and children. That's where our taxpayers are going to. That's where our dollars are going to. And so when they sit up there and they make fun, they poke fun at these political leaders and stuff, that what they're doing is they're separating, they're creating a force field of dissonance between reality and the observer. Whereas, hey, if these guys can go out there and make fun of it, it's probably not that serious, But if you look back throughout history, let's just take this little thing called World War II. Remember what happened in Germany to all the people, death camps, slave labor, all that stuff? Still going on today. After World War II, the whole big thing was they'd say never again, never again. The world would never let something happen again.
Yeah.
It's happening now. It's worse than it was then.
Yeah.
More people died during the Holocaust of starvation and being worked to death than they did in any gas chamber, and that type of mentality is still happening in places today. And the fact that people can stand up and make fun of something like that, I just think is ridiculous.
Well, there was like a comedian that made a quote that I really like, and he said, back 20 years ago, audiences wanted to be challenged, and now they just want to be reaffirmed.
Yeah.
And it's because of that. I mean, I think that on some level, audiences and people, Americans, are somewhat aware of how bad of an impact we're having on the world, and shows like the Daily Show and other things are kind of ways just to make us not feel so bad. That being said, there are a few people that watch the Daily Show, and hopefully it leads them to want to research some type of news that's a little more
legit.
Yeah.
And serious.
So in that sense, it's doing good. I mean, the alternative is that it's not discussed at all.
Yeah, I can see that.
And they're not aware of it at all.
And what's the paradox is like, who has the audience? Who's listening? Because there are so many like organizers or people like, well, if I had that many people, if I had the ear, I'd be organizing and we'd actually be making a serious change. I mean, like, apparently, did you guys hear about this? I didn't even hear about it till after it happened. I didn't know a whole lot about it, but I've heard that the comedy or Comedy Central or Jon Stewart organized like 1 million people to go to Washington, D.C. or something like that. But at the end of the day, it was just like, thanks for showing up. Have a good time.
Yeah.
Things are fine. Just keep doing what you're doing. and so they become a agent of our own oppression.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the things comedy can do, though, through people like Bill Hicks, and I'm not saying this is, sometimes you need to escape, right? Comedy can be a fantastic escapism. You see somebody that's just hilarious, you laugh your ass off all night, have a couple drinks, beautiful night.
Yeah, we consider comedy medicine.
It is. Actually, there's been quite a bit of scientific research to support that humor, feeling funny, actually has a healing effect on the body, on the brain.
Burns calories.
Yeah, they've done.
I've been trying it anyway.
They've done brain scans of people that were laughing and having a good time, and they could see that it was lighting up pleasure centers in the brain, and it can actually combat, in some ways, depression, serious depression. But ironically, some of the most depressed people are comedies. Look at, you remember Rodney Dangerfield?
Yeah.
It was really well known that he was a complete miserable emotional wreck most of the time. But when he was on stage, he was on.
Well, he
right?
was useful.
What do you mean?
Most comedians feel inept. We don't feel like we're providing or being a productive member of society. But when we're on stage and we're making people happy, we feel useful. And that's where that joy comes from.
It's very
You
interesting.
feel useful, huh? That's interesting. And something I think I just heard. I can't remember. Maybe it was at your show. I can't remember exactly who told me, but they said that most comedians that are out there get into it to find their one true love.
Really? Like, you mean like a romantic love?
Like they're yearning. Yeah, they're yearning for their life partner, and they think that getting up on stage, they're gonna meet somebody who's gonna be in the audience.
Comedy for booty.
I mean, that's the first time I've ever heard that.
Really?
From my understanding, discussing this with other comedians, the reason that we get on stage is because we have a hole in us,
A hole in your soul.
a hole in our soul, and talking to strangers and making them happy and like us makes us feel good, because at some point someone that we care about didn't really show us that they cared about us as much.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where it comes
I
from.
can kind of understand that. I mean, I've had this radio show. This is, I think, about our 118th show. I've been doing it for over 2 years now. And sometimes I think this is the only 2 hours of the week I feel alive.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to people that most of them don't know me. Actually, all of them don't know. I would say very few people actually know who I am or my identity or even care, over our listeners. And so it's not like it affects my day-to-day life really much. But there's there's literally hundreds or sometimes thousands of people on the other end of this mic. You just don't know who you're going to touch or who's going to be listening. So that's kind of I don't know, an intangible aspect of it that I can understand that. Just getting on mic and knowing you have to be on for a while. But comedy is very different. You can't get up on stage and talk for 2 hours and ramble and not have an impact, because people will leave after 10 minutes, 15 minutes if you're not funny.
Yeah.
So we're definitely not doing comedy here. But somebody, a couple of my listeners actually have encouraged. They said you should do stand up. And my first response is, I'm not funny. I mean, like if the purpose of my stand up was to make people feel horrible at the end of it, I could probably pull that off.
Yeah.
But making people laugh
There's humor. There's humor in that, though. When I first started listening to the show, and you would drop a dark one and then giggle at the end of it, I was laughing actually.
Really? Yeah.
And I thought it was funny. But I'm also that type of person that sees the humor in a lot of things. Maybe not a lot of people are like that.
Well, there's also, there's an audience for everything.
True. That's the one beautiful thing about radio. I think entertainment in general, it's kind of like if I say that if a painting is created, artist paints a painting, there's somebody out there that's going to love
Absolutely.
it. Somebody out there that's just going to totally flip out over it. And I think you could say the same thing about comedians. Everybody searches out their audience. You look at all the different people throughout. Like, you take Lenny Bruce is really hilarious. Not everybody found it funny. Sam Kinison, hilarious guy. I hated him. I couldn't stand him.
Yeah,
I can understand that.
the loud one.
It was just the screaming and yelling and that energy. To me,
it was more the misogyny that I didn't like about him. I thought the screaming and yelling was funny. It was, there was a musicality to it. But yeah, I didn't like his misogyny. He's very sexist.
Thank you, Juan.
John Belushi, Chris Farley. Tragic.
Those guys are tragic. Those guys are examples, and this is something that I personally wrestle with every day, which is, when I started this, I wanted the approval of people a lot. I think I still do. I think we all do, right? As people, we want a little bit of approval, but I definitely want as less than ever. And now when I get up there, I'm just cognizant of that, hey, I have a responsibility to be funny, and if I can educate or somehow educate sounds so pretentious, but if I can speak about something worth speaking, I should, and I have to. So, but a lot of these guys, those guys personally that die of drug overdoses, they either died by, I think some of them had to have been just accidents. They weren't trying to die. But some of them might have been trying to die. They just weren't satisfied with anything.
Suicided.
But it's funny because I see comics that are like that have that hunger, that have that need, and I think about myself when I needed that much approval, and people will feed you. They will, you mean
like feed with applause and laughter?
Yeah, there's this weird thing where it's like, if you really want it, but you make yourself so vulnerable where it's just like, it's almost like it just teeters on desperate, people will give it to you. And, I imagine that if you're constantly in that space, you get addicted to it, and then it's just never going to be enough. And shit, you might OD.
Yeah. Well, with that happy note, we're going to cut to Bill Hicks. We're going to listen to him a little bit, and we'll be back talking about serious comedy.
Say anything they want, you say, and they'll follow them, because we are the docile masses. We're the puppet people. Oh, put it on our TV, it's true. Put it on our TV, it's true. We're the puppet people. Hey, guide us, you fucking scum. Hey, we're the puppet people. There we are. What are you gonna do? That is why I believe the media is the ultimate enemy of all time. Hate it, hate every bit of it. Live out in Los Angeles, which I call Satan's shithole. Thank you. I feel rather strongly about the place. And the sooner it falls into the ocean due to a major earthquake, the better this world will be. As soon as it is flushed away, like the turd it is, into the Pacific Ocean, with all that's left floating on the sea are tanning booths like coffins and Charlton Heston's toupee, the world will be a better place. I believe. Horrible place. L.A. Always hot and sunny. That's why I love this weather. It's cool, because it's weather. It's actual fucking weather. Winter, cold, I'm with you. I'm following this whole thing. In LA right now, 85 and sunny. I called today. What's it like? It's hot and sunny. Every day it's hot and fucking sunny. Isn't it great? What are you, a fucking lizard? Only reptiles feel this way about this weather. I'm a mammal. I can afford scarves and coats and cappuccino and rosy-cheeked women, and all of them are available in the streets of Crowley right now. Crowley? I went through there today. Amazing. Right over that bridge. The tooth count lowers, the eyes closing. Thumbs are withdrawing. My God, it's like a time capsule. LA is a horrible place. Home of the pedestrian right-of-way law. You know what this law is? This is in LA. Pedestrian right-of-way law. This law is if a pedestrian decides to cross the road anywhere on the road at any time he wants, steps in the fucking road, every car has to stop and let this pedestrian, this box turtle of a human, cross the fucking road. Stupid law. How many of y'all wondered, like I did during the LA riots when those people were being pulled out of their trucks and beaten half to death? How many of y'all wondered like I did? Step on the fucking gas, man. They're on foot, you're in a truck. I think I see a way out of this. That pedestrian right-of-way law. Every one of these people coming home from work, gang of youth, stepped in front of their car, Molotov cocktails, clubs in hand. Every one of these idiots. I guarantee you that.
This is not funny. Okay, we are back. Little Bill Hicks. What was his? Have you watched a lot of Bill Hicks?
Yeah.
One?
I think we've all watched a lot of Bill. Yeah, all comics we've watched Bill Hicks a lot.
I wasn't really aware of him. I would say, until after his death. I was not aware of Bill Hicks during his lifetime.
Bill Hicks is just in our comedy community. We just talk. Most of us speak about him as the angry, smart guy, which sounds kind of redundant, or like
hey,
kind
you know
of common.
What? You know what they say?
Huh?
Truly intelligent people are rarely happy.
I didn't know that.
Yes,
but he's the archetype for that. Didn't like Dennis Leary steal his whole shtick from him? I think.
Oh, really? I haven't heard this.
Yeah, but Bill Hicks. I just it's hard like being a younger comedian because like you go out and you see so many new comedians trying to be like Bill Hicks that when you listen to Bill Hicks, you're just kind of annoyed by the fact that it's like, oh,
they're just copying him.
They're copying him, and you hear it a lot. But obviously, the other thing too is we talk about like Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor is obviously one of the greatest stand-up comedians of all time, and we wouldn't have our style if it wasn't for him. But that being said, when I listen to him, it doesn't have the same pop because contextually speaking, what he's speaking about is so commonplace.
Today it's commonplace.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Do you think it wasn't commonplace when he was doing it?
No, absolutely not. It was revolutionary.
So what was revolutionary that is now commonplace? Criticizing the government or
criticizing the government? Profanity, being more vulgar.
But his shtick was not just attacking the government, because he would just go off on tangents that had absolutely nothing to do with. For example, one of the things I did like about him is his discussion on consciousness. And the fact that he talked about the ride. We're on a ride.
Yeah.
And some people's like, hey, that's a ride. It's just a ride. No, it's not. And so he really, really delved into the nature of reality and some of the important stuff. But then he would talk about just sexuality, relationships. So he covered a lot of the same stuff. But what do you think do comedians have a role in society that maybe goes unrecognized? What would the world be like without comedians?
Well, I think you're never going to have a world without comedians. Everyone thinks they're a comedian on some level. Everyone's telling them that they're funny and they should do stand-up comedy. You have people. We're a species of self-medicators, and we're always making each other laugh, making ourselves laugh to make ourselves feel better, to deal with this existential crisis that we're all faced with at least a couple of times a day, I think. So
a couple of times a day,
at least. I think, right? I have it happens at least 2 or 3 times a day. I think about my mortality and what does my life mean, and then I just make a fart joke
or a shit joke.
Okay, what does your life mean? Let's hear that. Let's go into that.
What does my life mean? Oh, Jesus.
And do you mean like you personally, as in why are you here, or is it the role of life in general? Humanity. What do you mean exactly?
I think I'm here. I'm choosing to be here because I want to make people laugh. I want to have some. I want to be useful. That's all. I think it's the main thing, is want to contribute something that, in my own modest and humble way, be subversive. I think being subversive is in my nature. Like even right now, like I have ideas that I don't feel comfortable sharing because I do believe we're in a police state and I'm being monitored, and we're all being monitored. And
oh yeah, we've got our listeners. I'm pretty sure at least 3 of them are the NSA, the FBI, and Department of Homeland Security.
Hi guys, good to have you listening.
I was telling my friend that I was like, hey dude, I think that the NSA is bugging my phone. And he's like, why? And I was like, because the other day they called my dad and I was telling him about what was going on in my life, and for the first time I felt like somebody was actually listening.
Man, it couldn't have been your dad.
It wasn't my dad, man. I know it wasn't. I know that NSA guy was just like, just stick in there, bud. You'll make it. But, you know, and it's like, so you guys are up here, like, you guys are like George Carlin, where you're very literal and you're just out in the open about what your agenda is. But I feel that, like, you ever read that book, or you ever heard that saying, silent weapons for secret wars?
It sounds familiar. Yeah.
Well, I want to be alive as long as possible, and I also want to be, I'm making the air quotation marks with my fingers right now, successful, which means I want to be able to live off my art. And so part of that is cultivating a subversive nature, where it's just like, yo, it's like, you know, you can either be so flagrant people ignore you, or you can be so under the radar that you're just putting whatever message you want, and that's it. And that's my strategy.
And what is define success? I've because when the typical picture of success, if you were to ask the average person, particularly if you're a comedian, what is successful to you? They would say, well, successful to me would be I'm being cast in movies, and I have comedy, or I have my own comedy show, or I have a regular show. You do have a regular show.
That's right.
Or it be something Hollywood related. You know, that's success for most comedians. What is it for you?
Well, I want to be able, I think the PM show is the main thing, because the PM show is what I want to invest most of my time doing. If I were doing the PM show 4 to 5, recording it 4 to 5 days a week, that would be ideal. So whether I'm getting paid a lot or at all for that is really irrelevant. The point is, somehow I'm supporting myself and I'm doing that show and getting that form of entertainment and creative, and having that creative outlet. I'd like to tour. I love stand-up comedy, but I'm not like a lot of stand-up comics. They want to travel over the country and headline. I'll do it if I'm good enough, if I get good enough and there's a demand. And I love stand-up comedy, but you know, I'm satisfied just performing stand-up comedy here in the Bay Area.
And do you have the capacity now to do, let's say, 4 or 5 nights a week? Like, I mean, like, could you? Yeah,
we do. We have the talent pool here, and we have access to LA and other.
No, I mean you personally. I mean, because that's a taxing thing.
Yeah,
you know,
I can
you're
do
on
it
every day.
Yeah,
you know,
I mean, you only get better. Yeah. Just like anything else, you train and you keep doing it, and you practice and you build up your stamina, and you know, I mean, would I probably be exhausted some days? Absolutely. And there's some days I only do it once a month. I was doing it twice a month at one point, and that was exhausting, but you know, I got better at it. Yeah. You just learn to streamline.
Get in auto mode.
Let's talk about the more, like, I like the social issues, like you know, back to being subversive and just like underneath the radar. Like, I like talking about subjects, but if it's not funny, right now in comedy, there's a lot of people that are, if you watch stand-up, it's a lot of people that are just kind of, I almost equate them to sucrose. It's just sugar. There's no real dietary value to what they're saying. And I think that's because, you know, TV wants to play it safe. Maybe it's because the military industrial complex wants that. I don't know. But when I watch, you know, television and I see stand-up comedy, it's not very thought-provoking. And in the Bay Area, which is really sad, is that's also exemplified. I think for everyone, there's a comedian named Jesse Elias, who if you ever get a chance to see him, you should see him. He's very subversive, and he hides his brilliance and intelligence in his awkwardness. So he's able to say really subversive things about how advertisers manipulate us using, simple, and children using like simple rhythms, but he's one in, he's far and few between. The majority of comics are talking about their dicks and their pussies and shitting and not in a way that's progressive. But I'll give you an example. So like,
I gotta say the potty humor is one of my least favorite. I'm not a big fan of potty humor.
Here's the thing.
I visit that one at least once a day.
People think that I like making shit jokes, but the thing about it is I love making jokes, and shit is on my mind a lot,
This guy comes over to my house to visit my toilet at least once a day. That's the beauty of living by Bart.
That's right.
All your East Bay friends all of a sudden want to visit.
Well, I have a hemorrhoid, and I think part of the reason that I have a hemorrhoid is because I have this anxiety when it comes to using a restroom. I mean, I don't know. It's such a weird thing that we have in society where you go to a public restroom and hurry up. It's like everybody operates at a different pace, and
you can't rush stuff like that.
You really can, and that hemorrhoid is a reminder that I have to take it easy. I'm sorry. I'm taking this conversation into place.
Okay.
What I wanted to talk about was techniques of putting in, bigger ideas into comedy. So I hang out with Jessica, and Jessica is a feminist, a proud ecological, environmental activist, and she's really hip, and I like hanging out with her. She enlightens me about a lot of social issues, and one of the things we discuss is machismo in the male Latin community. And she was like, "Hey, I want to paint your nails," and I was like, "Why?" And she's like, "Why not?" And I'm like, "You're right, why not? Why not paint my nails? It doesn't define me, right? Just nails, just paint on my nails." She painted my nails, and I was born and raised most of my life in the mission, in and out of the mission, and I was just walking through the mission with these nails painted. And it was interesting because people would react really. There were people that had no reaction to me before were staring at me. And,
really? Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, what color was it?
Black.
It was black.
That's so benign.
You see that all the time.
Yeah, but it's different. You see that. I don't know.
Yeah, this was daylight.
I'm one of their own. I'm one of theirs. I'm one of their Latin brothers, and they see me and they just start becoming very unnerved.
Wow.
And they start saying. I started hearing stuff. People saying words, and someone called me. They just called me a bunch of homophobic words. Mm-hmm. And I got home, and I was really sad. So in order to make myself feel better, I decided to give myself a stranger. For those of you who don't know what a stranger is, it's when you sit on your hand until it's numb, and then you pleasure yourself. And it feels like a stranger is giving you pleasure. So I was sitting there, giving myself pleasure
with the black fingernails,
and I look down and I see this beautifully manicured and painted hand on my penis. It looked like a woman's hand, and it was so hot that I immediately completed. And that's when I realized that there's nothing gay about masturbating with your hands as a man if your nails are painted. No. I think in fact to the opposite. I think it's gay if you masturbate and your nails aren't painted, because maybe you just want to see a burly hand on your penis.
That's true.
But do you see? I walked you guys through that, but do you see what I'm saying? Like, that's like what I'm like challenging heteronormative paradigms, where it's just like, it's so ironic that we have such big hang-ups on our appearance. And my friend goes, "I don't look at my penis when I masturbate." I'm like, do you look at your head? You know what I mean? Like, and it's like people. Man, yeah, I don't know. We're just weird. We're a weird group of people.
People are strange.
But you see, I mean, here I'll bring it to you because I know a little bit about your background, your military background. But it's like all these things are just distractions, right? Make people feel insecure, constantly question their sexuality. What is their place in society? If you're constantly insecure about what your value is and what your place is in society, well, then you're not even conscious to how you can affect bigger issues, you know, which is like the fact that we are funding murder on a mass scale that just makes money for people that don't really care about us.
And no, you're right. And I think in many ways, you know, when you really do a thorough analysis of the structure of the world, the global economics, politics, and stuff like that, it's really quite terrifying. And comedy helps dull that in a way, but at the same time, it also helps bring it. Think about how many people became aware because of this funny person that was talking shit that they kind of suspected, but they didn't put the dots together. And then they see a really smart person stand on stage, delivering it to 10,000 people all at once. They're not alone. They're laughing over horrible things. And maybe when they leave, they become a little bit better of a person. They actually start out going out and doing something. And, you know, that's the power of the positivist perspective of the comedic. So, like, I guess maybe when I say I don't like comedy, it's I don't like meaningless comedy. Not that everything has to have, like, some kind of profound, you know, but when I see a comedian do a skit, and like you said, it's all dick and pussy jokes, you know, I might giggle, I might laugh, like, I remember that, but it's like I've seen that 1,000 times.
No, I mean, we all, I don't know if we all, most of the comedians I know, we want to deliver a message, but we are one of two things. Either we're not authorities about certain issues, or just we're afraid that we're never going to get booked if we talk about that. And
so it's like taboo stuff. You gotta, like, because you don't want to alienate an audience, obviously.
We want to get booked. It's not. We don't want to alienate an audience. It's like you have to reach a certain level. Whoa. So there you go. We've been told, we've been programmed to believe that you have to reach a certain level. Like, you have to be, like, you know, Richard Pryor, when he first started off, he wanted to be like Bill Cosby. He wasn't talking about crackheads and you know, shooting up dope and prostitutes and saying the N-word every, you know, minute. He was a very clean-cut, clean-shaven, hey, how's it going, everyone? And it's because, you know, he wanted just to get in show business. And that's what most of us want. We want the outlet first, but unfortunately, it seems like the majority of us, in order to get that foothold, we really have to either be super subversive or just basically sell out for a while. I mean, you have exceptions like a Kamau Bell, W. Kamau Bell, who is very politically charged. He had that show on FX, but then again, he was kind of doing the same thing that you say you don't like, which is he was taking these really serious issues, making jokes about them, and lightening it. And I mean, when you start saying about how comedy, I agree with you, and it makes me sad. Comedy generally is there to dull the pain, and I wish that it wasn't. I wish that we were more. I wish there was more education, more, but there isn't, and it's kind of a reflection of the state of the world.
Yeah. And I think that there's always going to be. I wonder if there were like comedians at the concentration camps.
I'm sure there were.
Just people like there were funny people that were just trying to raise everybody's spirits, no matter how bad it was.
Absolutely.
You know, there's a funny. You know, every class has got the class clown. You know, making people laugh even if they're not trying to.
Absolutely.
And the class klutz. I was the class klutz. But it is perfect. And I think for a lot of people, I would say the vast majority of the population, one of the most terrifying, well, this is just a fact, the most terrifying thing people are scared of is not in war-torn countries, of course, but is standing up and speaking in public.
Yeah.
Then the second most terrifying thing has to be being funny standing up being on that. So it's got to be a really emotionally charging experience for people to, because I've seen comedians fail.
Yeah.
They get up and do 2 minutes of complete and total misery, where people are just sorry that they showed up.
Yeah.
They feel bad for them, and they laugh and clap out of pity.
That's me. Yeah, I do that. I do that at the Brainwash.
That's not good. I think
just keep doing
it's
it.
this clap.
Pity laughter and pity, if you're faking it, it's so bad. It's so bad. But I think that the fear of speaking to people is the number one fear, even in war-torn countries. I mean, think about it. It's a war-torn country, right? People are just shooting at each other. Do you really just want to stand up in front of a group of people and talk? I mean, it's for a different reason that they're scared. They're you can be assassinated. But we do it. We do it. I mean, that is how much some of us either want attention and approval, or how much some of us feel a sense of duty to provide and produce something that's thought-provoking and funny.
Yeah, thought-provoking and funny, those are the two things, because like I said, you can be funny and not thought-provoking, and you can be thought-provoking and not funny, but if you get the two together, I think that's part of the formula for success. And we're going to cut to another comedian that's one of a newly emerging voices. We actually had him as a guest on the show a couple weeks ago. His name is Lee Camp.
Yeah.
He's a comedian, actor, writer. Has written a couple books and was actually a writer on The Onion for a while. He contributed to The Onion. He's got a arcane sense of sarcasm, but I think he's really turned into a voice for rational comedic thought, because he takes a comedic approach at politics. He's pointing out a lot of the hypocrisy, and I like his delivery. He's a nice guy. We had a really great conversation. Talked to him for about an hour. So you can check that out in our archives, and that's at screamforpeace.net. Just go into the archive section, and we've got over 100 hours there, and we are also syndicated on S.W.E.L. You can download the S.W.E.L. app, listen to us along with all the other news. I guess you shouldn't say all the other, but they put us in the news section, which was actually a little surprising to me. But we're right alongside BBC and PR and all the big guys, so that's kind of nice. So here's a little Lee Camp, and we will be right back.
Having big hands must suck. Because if you only speak sign language, you're always yelling. Take your time on that one, some of you. Take your time. But it's not just kids, honestly, right? We're all uninformed nowadays. We're so uninformed, and the news will tell you how uninformed America is, and it's just like they never give an answer. They never give solutions. They just come out and they're like, oh, we just did a poll, and 90% of America thinks the vice president is the guy in charge of whiskey and gambling, and it's sad, but they never give an answer. They never there's some things we can do. Like, to begin with, take the number one story, not the most important story, but the story everyone's focused on, right? Everyone's clicking on online. And what is it? It's that some starlet accidentally had her tit pop out at a movie premiere, and so everyone's looking at it. Take that, and instead of the black bar or the blurriness, put an important news fact right there, right? And, Honduras, military coup, something. Or Megan Fox accidentally opens her legs to let in a little fresh air while she's on the carousel somewhere, and now everyone across America is staring into her promised land, but instead you put the CNN ticker right there, right? And then, I'm just saying, you gotta bring the info to us, right? You can't expect us to get out of our carefully crafted ass grooves in our Tempur-Pedic beds. Do you have any idea how long those took us? Like 2 weeks, all right? Bring the info to us. Look, if the number of people who died from malaria this year was tattooed on Lady Gaga's ass, we would all know it. We would all know it. And there's times we would really appreciate this shit. Let's say James Gandolfini goes on vacation and accidentally lets a ball hang low out of his European Speedo. How excited would we all be that we're instead staring at a pie chart of the nation's energy crisis? We're like, oh, thank God, else I'd be rubbing my retina with a Brillo pad. We'd appreciate it. Something else we could do to have a more informed populace is sports are popular, right? Everyone's watching sports. Even if you don't watch sports, you like the competition reality shows. Let's combine sports and important news stories. So Wright is like an illegal alien's getting ready to make that dash across the border. Give him a football. See if he can make it. Now it's the #1 story on ESPN, you know? Now everyone's talking about it. Even those militiamen are going to put down their fucking rifles, pick up a bucket of buffalo wings. Now they're cheering for their favorite nationality. They're like, come on, Guatemalans! You're on my fantasy illegal immigrant team. Right? Or something to get people fired up. How about CEOs of the banks going up against homeowners facing foreclosure in a no-holds-barred ultimate fighting match? Right? Fighting and crotch kicks allowed. Or how about Congress competitive eating against each other, you know? The whole world would tune in. Pay-per-view to raise money for the deficit. The whole world would tune in to see Mitch McConnell and Harry Reid stuffing undercooked sausage links into their engorged, lying faces. Really, if the Democrats win, they get to keep their mistresses a secret. If the Republicans win, they get to keep their mistresses a secret. Hey, it would work.
Religion fucked a lot of people up. Talking about the motherfucking God we trust is on $1. That's the only dude they talking about. Y'all talking about, ooh, go to church with no money and don't you feel bad? When I don't have nothing to put in, everybody in church know it. You didn't even put nothing in the collection. Kiss my ass. Shit in it. Y'all want some shit? You give me shit, here's some more. No, but church be heavy. Catholic church is hip because they got a gimmick, that freaky water. You know, you can freak off and be cool and be Catholic. No, I'm a son of the Spirit. So I remember the Salvation Army had all the virgins. You remember? No. I'm saving myself for the Lord. And you could tell they were virgins, right? Because everything's drawn up. I envisioned right so that they meet some hippie. Oh, I'm the Lord. And in the Midwest, they own God. The hillbillies, you hear them on the radio Sunday morning. You turn on the radio. Out there, friends and neighbors, has God touched you today? Well, if He hasn't touched you, you send us $1.85, and we'll send you absolutely free a touch from God. And they always have some woman confessor, right? You know, I was lost and alone. I had nowhere to go and nothing to do. God found me. Now I have plenty to do and nowhere to go. I went to white Protestant church for a while, you know, but it scared me, man. The music had some weird music going.
How are we doing here? So that's little Richard Pryor and little Lee Camp. Have you heard of Lee Camp? Have you?
I've heard of his name, but I don't. I'm not familiar with his material. He's good. He's funny guy.
Yeah. He's funny. He's got a harsh, almost in your face approach to it. But something interesting, you know, I actually met, Jessica and I both met Abby Martin this weekend, who's an activist. She runs Media Roots and recently was picked up as an RT correspondent out of D.C. And has nothing to do with comedy, but that's what we did Saturday night.
Everything has something to do with comedy.
But actually Lee Camp has been on her show, and so there's a connect there. But you know, one of the things it does, like comedy does offer some escapism, you know, and so it can be healthy, but like a good drug, it can also be unhealthy. Like one of the most horrible aspects that I think in society, romantic comedy, movies, romantic comedies,
rom-coms.
Oh my God! I think I think Satan is actually behind all romantic comedies. I really believe that because they put up this fantasy of how you're supposed to meet and fall in love.
Yeah.
But when you look out into the real world, that's not how it works. That's not how it works.
It's so, I think when you watch a rom-com as a young person, and then that's how you expect it to be, it just stalls your development so big. I mean, I was trying to recreate. I don't know if you were like that. I've been trying, I spent a lot of my younger dating life trying to recreate rom-coms.
Yeah. How so? Can you tell us the story?
You know, we're just taking girls. First of all, just rom-coms teach you to be a creep, you know.
Stalk girls.
Yeah, just, a little bit
give up.
Would just like walk through the park and hope you're gonna bump into some cute girl and be like, oh hey, well, maybe we should. It's like pretend to be nervous and then take them out to coffee. It's like in rom-coms, the guys are always nervous. Like, why? Why be nervous? Why is such a focus on being nervous? Why the nervous energy? Well, of course, because it makes it funny. It builds tension, but there's never just like. And the smooth guy, right? Which is what we become as we become more self-confident, more self-aware. The smooth guy is always the bad guy in the rom-com.
Like the Rico, like the.
Well, of course. Yeah, of course they're overtly smooth.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think, right, as we become more successful and more confident, we become smoother. But then in those rom-coms, you're smooth. You're a smooth guy. Look at you. I mean, you're yourself. You're not trying to impress anyone.
And I'm really good at that.
And not impressing people?
Yeah. I have got that down.
Are you single? Are you single?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. That's not good.
I have not met a girl that could tolerate me.
Really?
No, they can't.
Well, man.
They get like 5 minutes and they're done.
Well, I mean, you have a very negative, tolerate you. Why would anyone tolerate you?
Exactly.
You see that language, the language you use. I actually got into it with someone the other day. They're like, where are you from? And I told them I'm from San Francisco. They're like, oh, I can tell you're very proud. And I said, she goes, San Franciscans are very proud to be from here. And I was like, well, we are very proud. And the reason is because we're accepting, not tolerant. We don't tolerate people's differences. We learn to accept them. And when I hear you say that you're not tolerated, that's sad. You should. You haven't found
there's a lot of truth in that.
That accepts. You're like a black swan. You're dark, but you're beautiful.
Aww. Thanks. But we do San Francisco. San Francisco is not what people think it is.
Not anymore.
It really isn't, and it's, to me, I find the San Francisco people fall in love with are the ones that's in their imagination. I went to the park the other day because the impression people have of San Francisco, it's a culturally diverse, very integrated, open, loving community.
Yeah.
My experience has been radically different, and I was at Dolores Park yesterday. And I was sitting at the bottom of the park, and I looked up. I took some pictures. I looked up, and I'm like, where are the black people?
Oakland.
Yeah, exactly. And you cannot have that kind of stratification
it's terrible.
On accident.
Oh, it's not an accident.
It's not an accident.
I get upset. I mean, when I see black people, I get excited. I'm like, I grew up with black people in San Francisco.
Yeah. And, I've talked to I've done some work with some large cultural institutions in San Francisco, and people, like, I've talked to donors, who were contributors, financial contributors, and they're like, I cannot, like, I remember one conversation I had with this very lovely woman. She was probably in her 50s, African American, grew up in San Francisco, married a white man. And so they had a couple kids and stuff. And she said, I can't contribute to an organization that doesn't welcome me.
Yeah.
And even though nobody at the organization would ever say that they were racist or they were any way, turning anybody away, all you had to do is show up one day and find out. It's like, wow, there are no black people here.
Yeah.
And so I look at that and it's like, that's not what I expected. That's not what I thought. So there's a racial division here that I find very unsettling. I don't fully understand it myself.
I tell you what, too, that's one of the creepier elements or parts of our local comedy scene where it's like there's not that many black people in the audience, and our comedians don't know how to deal with how to interact with black audiences.
If you had a black audience,
and then to the point even where there's a black comedian, I've seen audiences that, for example, there's like this one show that takes place it's a once a month show, and it's a competition, right? So it's a little bit competitive. And the comedian that won, when you win, you go through a series of like comedy improv challenges, and if you win, then you do like a 10-minute set at the end. So this one guy, he's a black comedian, very funny guy. I'm not gonna say his name, but very funny guy, very lovable. He wins, right? So you think, oh wow, this audience of predominantly white people, you weren't even thinking about that they were predominantly white, but they really like him. So he goes to start performing his set, and they're like, sing us a song, dance for us.
Wow.
And then you just realize that, like, did they like him for what he was doing, or did they like him for the novelty that he was black? And obviously by what they were yelling out, there were some people in the audience that did not see him as a human being. They saw him as almost like as a minstrel show, a potential minstrel show.
Right.
And that's indicative.
That's scary.
And I see that and I feel that in a lot of the comedy scene here. I feel that just walking down the street, and there's just, I don't know, it's palpable. There's racism. They say you don't see a lot of black people. You don't. And you know what else you don't see? You don't see a lot of Chicanos in San Francisco anymore. You see, and I have issues with that. I love my Central and South American people. I love people, period. When I walk through the Mission, I don't see my Chicanos anymore. I don't see my Mexican Americans.
Certainly not on Valencia Street.
Absolutely not.
I think what's even more disturbing is all the cultural art on the streets and the walls, and then there used to be. It's like if you go and you see like remnants of a lost world kind of thing. Yeah. It's like that's what it is now. We've left the colorful husk
for people to kind of move into and build their tall, shiny aluminum covered apartment buildings.
I wouldn't even say we left.
You don't think we've left?
Some are still here and some are being pushed out.
Well, there are still some here, but I mean, it's like they're just leaving enough people to do the service industry and manual labor jobs.
That's the problem right there.
That's the only reason that there's anyone here, because they're being gracious.
And what is that they? Who is they? And one of the things we talked about, there was a huge controversy with Jack S.C.R.E.A.M, big corporation trying to move into the Mission, and community rose up and fought him off. But it was like a battle in a much bigger war, and people didn't want to fight the war. They just wanted to win a battle, because we've talked about this show before. Is like there isn't any place in the world that isn't at war, and in America there are two wars going on all the time. It's the war, the people in uniform, the troops are out there fighting, killing people, and then there's the war at home, and that's the war of consciousness. But even in the war at home, it is the same wars going on, except instead of bullets, they're using money. Money is a weapon, right? So the reason why you see now this is sort of hypothesis on my part or projection, but I mean that there's a race-related war going on everywhere, and you look at in the Middle East, it's brown people against white people, and here at the home, it's kind of the same thing. The black population in this country, they think that slavery went away. Didn't go away.
Absolutely,
it got rebranded.
That's right.
It got rebranded and expanded.
It's prison.
There's more slavery now than there ever has been, but they're so good at the PR and creating this facade of differentness that people just can't see it. So what some people call I don't know, apartheid, there's a version of that. It's like the creamy white milk version of that, and it's called gentrification. And gentrification is an economic war. And they say, well, anybody can be gentrified, or anybody can participate. You know, you just have to go out and pull yourself up by the bootstraps and make a lot of money. Yeah. But that's really not what it's about, because not everybody has that option, no matter how smart you are, because it's not what you know, it's who knows you. Who's going to open those doors for you? And the part of the gentrification is the ongoing what would you call it? Disenfranchisement and like what do we call it before? I think I called it the 4Ds. Divide. I'll think of these in a second. It was they infiltrate, divide, and keep us fighting amongst ourselves. You know, and part of and not being able to form strong communities. You know, and art does have a lot to do with that, because art is one of the few things that can pull everybody together. You know, you don't need to speak any particular language to enjoy a painting, for example. So I'm still of my optimistic side. Art and culture and community is what's really going to create a sustaining movement that will weather the storm that's going on around us. But people really do need to come together and don't let the barriers. People are more so focused on what their differences that keep them apart, rather than what's bringing them together. You know, because a community really, I think it's more than. I mean, what communities are we a part of? How many of them are we a part of, and how many of them are actually formalized enough that they would claim us to be a part of them? For me personally, none. Zero. I'm not a part of any community anywhere.
Really?
None. Nowhere. Nobody. There's not any group in San Francisco that would say, hey, he's one of us. Not one.
That's interesting.
And I think a lot of people can say the same thing. I mean, here at Radio Valencia, I'm a part of the you know, I pay the dues and we're part of that. But if I walked away, nobody would give a shit. Nobody would care, really. If anybody left, to be like, oh, sorry, see ya. You know. One of our DJs got murdered here, and he died a couple of years ago, and I wanted to launch an investigation and talk about it, and actually talk about why he did it, because I talked to, and some people say it was suicide, but even if it was suicide, to me it was murder-side. And that was somebody very close to him, who's one of his best friends, and he was funny. I thought he was a hilarious guy too. But he had a show here on Radio Valencia, and I talked to one of his best friends, and she told me the number one reason he's dead is because his community abandoned him. He wasn't a part of anything. Everybody shunned him, turned him away. And that's what happens to a lot of people. So you look at these comedians that have this tragic life, sometimes I wonder what, you know, even if they were rich and successful, who actually embraced them as people, and were the drugs simply a substitute for what wasn't there emotionally from other people.
For sure.
I know one thing I'm never gonna have to contend with, and that's fame and success. So I can keep saying I don't have to.
That's not really. Sometimes it's not up to you. Sometimes people will make you famous and successful, whether you like it or not.
That would be the best kind, wouldn't it? But we were talking off there. What was it? You said something about what we were doing here was brave,
yeah,
or
I think
something.
So.
Pointing out.
I mean, you're criticizing a group of, you know, the military industrial complex. You know, you're criticizing them, and their whole thing is murdering.
And in a way I am criticizing, but in a way it's more of an analysis, because I do accept the nature of reality.
Okay.
And a lot of, and you look at all the do-gooders are out there.
Yeah.
You know, just because they're against war doesn't mean they're good people.
Absolutely.
You know, I've been a part of peace groups where they were the most horrible people in the world. Manipulative. They were just fighting a different war. You know?
Well, yeah. I mean, geez Louise, that's a big philosophical thing.
Yeah.
Well, the show's about philosophy.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. There's violence. You know, they're probably using some of the same tactics.
Emotional violence, psychological warfare.
Using the same tactics that their enemies are. But I mean, I don't know. If they believe they're fighting for a greater good.
Every war both sides think they're right.
Absolutely.
You know?
I hope. Wouldn't it be funny to find out, like, well, we're wrong, but we just fucking like fighting.
We just like killing you. But I think the people that are behind the scenes pulling it, the banksters, they're out there, they're funding both sides.
Yeah.
You know, they do know they're doing the wrong thing. They don't care.
Well, I mean, but maybe they're looking at it as a form of population control.
Absolutely. That's definitely a big part of it. Resource management, and population control.
On our level, we can't understand that. And maybe the reason the population's out of control is because of mismanagement on their end. But they don't, they're like, who cares? We're not here to be like, blame. We're all about results.
Yeah,
yes,
it's going to happen anyway.
Overpopulated the planet. Now it's time to, with the global warming is inspiring I think, and forgive me, I hope your audience forgives me. I get my news from my Facebook feed.
There's a lot there, actually. Yeah. Hey, you know how I found out about the earthquake this morning?
Facebook.
And I seldom investigate it on Snopes to see if it's legit or not. But I read in an article that said that when our temperature goes up 2 degrees, the amount of violent acts is going to go up exponentially. And I was like, well, hey, that's kind of a cool and convenient form of population control, right?
Yeah. Let people kill each other. Let everybody. We play a game here sometimes that I like to play, and that is. It's the year 3000, and the world has reached a state of equilibrium. There are 10 billion people living in relative harmony, and there is no war. There are still conflicts, but they're settled in a non-violent, non-killing manner. So it's the year 3000. They're going to look back on this century right now. How would they contextualize what's going on? This is an exercise I created to help with objectivity, because you can remove yourself from the equation. It's a little easier to be objective. So if it's the year 3000 and you could look back, or in the year 3000 people are looking back at your personal contribution to comedy and the world at large, what would you like it to be, and how would they contextualize the San Francisco comedy scene?
I think so that year 3000 they've figured out a way to work together. Man, well, I'm going to be pretty idealistic, pretty optimistic. I would hope that they'd look at our comedy scene as a fertile petri dish for developing the type of subversive communication that I enjoy, that I put out in my comedy. And I think if they were to look at me specifically, they'd be like, hey, that guy was one of those guys that such a smart ass. He figured out how to say stuff that was important without getting killed, which is just basically good communication. So they'd be like, yeah, he was one of those guys that did that.
Without getting killed, and nobody killed him.
Without getting killed. Pardon me. Without getting killed, without killing anyone. I don't know. I don't need to be a bucket. If I'm a drop in the bucket, that's cool.
Yeah.
If they looked at me, they're like, yeah, that guy was pretty clever. He was clever, and that's that was one incremental torque in the right direction. That'd be cool.
And did for you personally, is comedy something that was a conscious choice you went into? Did you sort of slip into it, or did it pick you and it just pull it out? Because I don't know. It's still something I don't understand.
Sounds like you're interested in it. Sounds like you want to do it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about do it. The prospect of, I've done some open mics through reading. I'm a writer, so I've done some open mics and I hated it. It was very. I wasn't a comedian. I definitely wasn't up there to make people laugh. But it wasn't something I enjoyed. I mean, it's not like, and actually what I would do is I'd take off my glasses so I couldn't see the audience, because you're just a big blur right now. And I would just talk into the mic, and I was pretending I was on radio.
As a child, you asked me, did I fall into it? Yeah. Did it choose me? Did I choose it? As a child, I was laughed at because my parents would make fun of me. My friends would make fun of me. Not always not in a mean way, sometimes in a mean way. Sometimes I did really silly things. As a young adult, I was told I was funny. consistently. And then as an adult, I chose to do stand-up comedy. So I think I went through all three, where, you know, it kind of found me. What were the all three? One of them was it found me. I chose one. I chose it.
Or did it choose you?
And it chose me. Yeah. I think it's all three.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. That's good. No one thing. And do you think it's that way with most people? They just grow up with a funny man, funny girl? And there are a lot more, it seems like, maybe I'm wrong about this, seems like there's predominantly more men in comedy than women.
There are a lot more men.
A lot more women.
Yeah.
Is it because women aren't funny, or because they're...
No, I think society is sexist and it doesn't reward women for being funny. And they're just as funny. You know,
hilarious, actually.
Yeah, I mean, people are funny.
Do you have a lot of women in your shows?
Do I book a lot of women?
Yeah.
I book women.
Yeah.
Do I have a lot? I think
is there a lot to choose from here? I guess what I'm getting at.
There are great comics here of all genders, races, and creeds. There's funny people. There's a lot of funny people here. Yeah, and there's some hilarious people. Yeah, I mean, I don't like female comedians specifically tell me that they appreciate not being addressed based on their sex. Don't call me a comedian. Call me a comedian. Call me a comic.
Oh, is that a thing? I never even heard that. Comedian is what you call women, female women.
Yeah, and you know, I listen to them because I'm not a feminist, but I'm an ally, and I'm learning.
How do you know you're not a feminist? What is a feminist?
I don't know exactly, because I don't know what a feminist is.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure. But
you described me as a feminist.
You did?
Well, from my understanding of the little thing that I know that you've described yourself as a feminist.
Have I? Okay.
You have said you're a feminist.
Okay.
So I just, or maybe I was high or something. But the point is, you know, I'm an ally of anyone that stands up for themselves and wants to let people know how they want to be treated.
Yeah, I think by definition, I mean, like, technical. If somebody would say, is feminist mean women should be treated equally as men?
Yeah,
I would say yes, I'm a feminist. But I've met other women who identified themselves as feminists, and for them it was more of they were waging war against the male race.
Yep.
You know, that's what feminism meant to them. And so I don't do that, but I think that I definitely equal access to everything.
No. I mean, I think like our society is taught to not really listen to women. We're just kind of like, hey, yeah, what women say is not as important as what men say. So the reason I think I'm an ally is when I hear a woman speak, I just listen to what they say, and I'm thoughtful and mindful and considerate of what they say, just as if I were listening to a man.
Yeah. Generally, I prefer the company of women. Just throwing that out there. Nothing personal. I mean, like, this is a cool set of people, but I mean, just walking around the streets and hanging out, and I like girls. I like talking to girls.
Yeah, I mean, beauty. I was talking to one of my exes the other night, and you know, I was telling her, she was just like, I just don't like it when you act like a horny boy, you know.
Well, you did when we were together.
Well, and I realized, I was like, well, I understand where you're coming from. You know, you want to be appreciated for your beauty, but you don't want to be sexualized.
Right.
Necessarily.
People want to be sexualized.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Not necessarily, but
they don't want to be sexualized first.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's got to be appropriate.
Well, I mean, then I told her, I was like, well, I can't help it because you're so hot. And she said, well, you're pretty hot too. And do you know what I mean? So it's like, hot to her means that you appreciate not just my physical appearance, but kind of the energy that I put out.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I think I'm so alone because I'm a sapiosexual. And people, you have to get along. You have to sapiosexual.
What does that mean?
Sexual?
Sapiosexual means you're attracted to intelligence.
Ooh, that's such a cool thing to say.
And it's a catch-22 for me. Actually, I call it the catch-44. It's like the catch-22, only you're twice as fucked. But
should be good.
But not in this case. Not in this case, because any girl that was smart enough for me to be attracted to her would also be smart enough not to want anything to do with me. So,
man, you are just a mess. You're just so hard on yourself.
Oh, you just don't even know. You just don't even know.
Why, man? Huh? Be nice to yourself. Be kind. Not nice. Be kind to yourself.
Give yourself a stranger. I'll paint your nails.
Yes. That's, you know what? That's a really good exercise in positive visualization.
Oh, I've painted my nails.
Whoa. But have you given yourself a stranger?
No, I haven't.
Try it.
No, I haven't. Maybe that's on the agenda. No, I give myself a righty. Some the same way, because I'm left-handed. Mm-hmm. If I go with the right hand, it's almost the same thing.
Ooh.
Being ambidextrous, I can thumb it. So
sounds good.
And people can find more about Juan Medina at the P.e.a.c.e on Facebook, and that's the P.e.a.c.e show with Juan Medina. We got a next show coming up, and it's the basement of the sports basement,
1590 Bryant.
1590 Bryant, and the date. What's the exact date of the next show? It's the fourth Friday of every month.
Fourth Friday of every month, so it's Friday the 28th.
And if there are 5 Fridays, is it still the fourth Friday, or is it the last? So it's not the last Friday.
It's not the last Friday. It's
the fourth Friday. It's a good night. You come out, have a couple of complimentary adult beverages.
That's right.
I really enjoyed the goldfish.
Thank you.
Yes, that was really good. I always enjoy the goldfish, and it was a pleasant night of comedy.
It's quality comedy.
It was. I was surprised
for being it's really good.
So great job. It's a great job. And you know what's great? I think too is having it the free thing, allowing people to pay. You know, there was a tip thing that was there. I gave the band $5. You know, that was cool.
Very generous.
And to me, that is the future of economics. It's based on the gifting economy. Yeah. Give what you can. Don't exclude people from stuff.
No.
Because think of how many people out there that are struggling. They're not spending a lot of money on entertainment. You know, that would have been a great night out.
Yeah.
You know, and there should have been a standing. I mean, there was a standing room. There were quite a few people at the end. People were trickling in all night. So it was definitely. I enjoy that. I enjoy that more than I would have going to, and I think it was because of the community authenticity. You know, there were comedians there that I could expect to run in as Zeitgeist or someplace. They were from San Francisco, and so you really got the feeling that it was a community event, not a money-making event. You know, like you go to Cobb's, you go to some. I'm not criticizing them necessarily, but I mean that's a business. That's their business model.
Yeah.
You know, that's what they're doing, and you could pay. I've paid before $10, $20, $30 to see shows and then drinks and all that throughout the night, and I'd walk away kind of like that wasn't really that worth it. It wasn't funny at all. You know, you laugh a couple times, but so no, I really enjoyed the PM show. And does the PM is just evening post midnight?
Yeah, exactly, post meridian show.
Okay. So, what are the goals with that? Specific? You want to take it to a couple of nights a week, or
ideally, we're going to at some point become anywhere from 3 to 5 nights a week. I think ideally would be 4 nights a week. That way I get one night. That way I get a 3-day weekend. I mean, who doesn't want a 3-day weekend, right? Every day for the rest of their life. And put that live streaming. We're going to create a YouTube channel, and I would like. If you're listening out there, Netflix or Hulu, let me be your late night talk show. Let me come check out my format and see how awesome it is, and then we'll do it. We'll produce your show for you. That's where I want to be. I want to be on one of these streaming channels.
Yeah. You can create them yourself in some way. But it's amazing what people are doing with YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube.
It really is.
YouTube's great.
Yeah,
I just think Netflix would be cool too. I don't know why. I like Netflix. I actually like Netflix. Maybe that's why. I want to work with services that I use and enjoy, and I enjoy Netflix. So because I appreciate them, I would have I could give them a little extra. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we are in the home stretch. We got about 20 minutes left. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. And encourage you to find out more. If you're in San Francisco, check out True Hustle Entertainment and check out their shows. And you can find more about Scream for Peace at screamforpeace.net. We have over 100 shows archived. Check out the Quantum Tech section And we're going to cut to a little break here, and we will be right back in a moment.
St. Francis, poetry, art, faggotry. Now I know it ain't right, but I decided I had to. Us poets paint life, but don't get recognized till after. So I fake my own death just to see what would happen. As I take shallow breaths and wait for people's reaction. It was funny at first, but I had to hold my laughter. Wait, before long I was on display in an open casket wake. And I'm the main attraction, draws a crowd, a freak show of sorts. Good thing my skin is pale enough to pass as a decomposing corpse frozen in my thoughts. Laying stiff, laying with people's emotions and awaiting a kiss from praying lips that I hate but miss. She didn't show, although she sent a card with flowers. How considerate. Little bitch would beg me sit in my car for hours. Heartless power something about with my patience. It gets me violent. I'm ready to fly shit and everything like I quit. Then again I sit deathly quiet, biting my tongue, just excited that some kids who are invited to come did. I'm the center of attention, the talk of the town. It ain't all that profound, but on this special day of mine, I'm the one the universe revolves around. It's like a birthday, kind of. I also found it's the worst way to find love. White doves battle black crows in one of the back rows, and everybody my ass knows back home is sporting black clothes and looking glum as usual. It's all too familiar. I put the fun back into funeral. My morbid humor will kill you. For all that it's worth, people who I thought were jerks were putting on the waterworks, and it sorta hurts. My mama stroked my hair with so much care, but hardly spoke. Now my heart is broken. Yeah, I should have let her in on the joke, but I'm honestly choked up, and I'm stuck holding back my tears as they absorb the atmosphere. I wanna turn back, I'm scared. Then a hand touches my shoulder to calm my nerves. Something odd occurs because I hear my father's words, so I got disturbed as he expressed what he's never said. What bothered me the most is that I remembered he's dead. I manifested destiny. The best and worst of worlds has come true as I'm buried alive. In the back of my mind echoes his words, I love you, I love you, I love you. Irony is a funny bastard. I mean, you gotta be funny when your mere existence is totally dependent upon God's twisted sense of humor. And I could cut this kid with a knife, he's living so thick. The knife struck. Overprivileged kids trying to tell me life sucks. Men preoccupy their minds thinking of all the guys their wives had sexual relations with. I'd have patience if the innocents weren't lost. But when I scrubbed my hands, the purity rinsed off. And when I scrubbed some more, protective gloves tore. The only thing saving me from loving her.
See, I think drugs have done some good things for us. I really do. And if you don't believe drugs have done good things for us, do me a favor. Go home tonight, take all your albums, all your tapes, and all your CDs and burn them. Because you know what? The musicians who made all that great music that's enhanced your lives throughout the years, real fucking high on drugs. Man, the Beatles were so high, they let Ringo sing a couple of times. Tell me they weren't partying. We all live in a yellow submarine, yellow submarine. We all live in a, you know how fucking high they were when they wrote that? They had to pull Ringo off the ceiling with a rake to sing that fucking song. John, get Ringo, he's in the corner. Pull him, ooh, look at him scooch, grab him. Yeah, hook his bell bottom, hook his bell bottom. He's got a song he wants to sing us. Something about living in a yellow tambourine or something. Ringo, Yoko's gone, come down, we can party again.
That's my show. The PM show with Juan Medina, y'all. We got interviews, we got stand-up comedy, we got live music, sketches, videos. We got free beer and free champagne. It goes down every fourth Friday at 1590 Bryant Street in beautiful San Francisco, the Mission District. That's right. So join me every fourth Friday at 1590 Bryant. Free comedy. Free comedy. TrueHealthEntertainment.com, y'all. I'm on it.
You found that.
Yes, Sergio found that.
Cool.
We'll always be able to find you.
Wow, that's good.
The little bumper, that's your little bump.
Yeah.
Thanks to Sergio for seeking out. He's the really has become the music curator for the show, finding these obscure, that wasn't obscure of course, but finding relevant tunes. And if you're listening for the first time, you are listening to The spontaneous creativity rapidly enhances ethospheric modulation for People Evolve as Consciousness Expands show, otherwise known as Scream for Peace. And that was Bill Hicks doing a little thing on drugs. And I think drugs are one of the, by the public, it's misunderstood. The powers that be understand it exactly and have fed us a line of shit that good drugs are bad and bad drugs are good. And you can obviously overuse anything. You could OD on water. You can get too much air in your body and not enough everything else and get sick. You can get nitrogen narcosis. You can OD on oranges. You know, if you eat too many oranges, it can be toxic to your body. You know, so you know, everything is a gateway to something else. And with temperance and I think community, why do people turn to drugs, and why does it take over the life? Philip Seymour Hoffman, recently dead guy, great actor, one of my favorite. And I looked at him and just like, why this guy had everything, fabulous career, no lack of money, you know, and you know that he was just surrounded by people that would basically do anything for him, yet he was a heroin addict.
Drugs are great.
But what was it about the drugs that he wasn't getting in the rest of his life? Is it society's failure to embrace people? Why they turn to drugs? Does it offer an escapism that doesn't exist, or are they simply part of reality and they're just there and they're good for you, and if you do too much, you die?
Yeah, maybe it was just an accident. Drugs feel good.
They can. They can, absolutely. They can feel bad too.
Yeah, they can.
They feel very bad. A lot of people, but I mean, you look at today's, like, look at the deaths and drugs. The more people die from prescription drugs than anything else.
Well, it's because people are telling them they're safe.
Right. That's exactly what I just said. Is like the bad drugs are good and the good drugs are bad, and like things like cannabis is shit. You know, the question about cannabis is people talking about shit. You know, this state's legalizing it, that state's legal, blah blah blah. It's like, where is the scientific proof and evidence where it should be illegal in the first place? Why is it illegal in the first place? It doesn't exist. It was a complete racist attack on brown people. That's really why the word marijuana itself was made up by the United States government to demonize cannabis use. And
they're making it sound Spanish?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, it was street drug. They're making it sound Hispanic. And there was a congressman around right as Prohibition was ending and cannabis was then going to be attacked. It was directly they said when Mexicans smoke cannabis or marijuana, they think they're as good as white people.
Wow.
That was a quote from a U.S. senator, and so I mean it was a race war, and it was part of the race war. But, you know, comedians throughout time have always approached this. I mean, look at Cheech and Chong, you know, but they always, they still put it out there in a demonized manner, as in, I mean, when was the last time you saw, you know, a character, either fictional or real, that was like a working professional, had a family and a job and all of that stuff, and smoked cannabis? Wow, that's an unusual sound. We usually don't get that. You know, it doesn't happen often. The images they put out for stoners are stupid, are lazy, sitting around, eating pizza, drinking beer at noon, smoking weed. And comedy shows, they put out the same image. They'll use that as a comedic factor, but you don't see the counter side, where it's like, well, that's funny, but this is reality. You don't see that. You don't see the realist perspective. And who was the guy? I think it was one of the bald ones. Had he was in a show. He played a stoner in some movie and then came out against cannabis legalization. I mean, how is that for hypocrisy?
I know this woman, and she's got a good job. She works for the state. You know, whenever she has great health insurance, so whenever she gets sick, she goes to the doctor. I mean, she goes to the doctor way more often than most people I know. and she'll have like a cold or a cough or a sore knee, and she's prescribed really top of the line strong drugs. And I just got to thinking, I was like, we talked about it, it's like, why are they giving you such strong drugs? They give her like that one cough syrup. What's the one that's really strong? Is it promethazine, or is it whatever, the one that rappers rap about?
Okay.
And we talked about it, and we're like, dude, and she agreed. They're trying to get you hooked.
Oh yeah.
They know you've got the money, you've got the proper insurance, and they're just trying to get you hooked on this.
Anything they can.
And my other buddy, who is a doctor, practices emergency medicine. But he's just a doctor, and he says that. I go, yeah, I told him this, and he goes, absolutely. He goes, but you have to understand, Juan, that from my perspective, if someone comes into my doctor's office with a sore knee and I don't prescribe them painkillers, my approval scores are going to go down, and I'm not going to be working at that hospital for very long. So it's this weird relationship where they want to get you hooked, but also maybe it's because they're afraid that if they don't give you what you want, you're not going to tell them that they're doing a good job. And it's weird.
Yeah, I was talking to a therapist who was a psychiatrist as well, and he told me that part of his job description is prescribing drugs to everybody. If somebody's willing to take a drug, they are obligated to prescribe it. And it's amazing. You can actually go into some place and just ask for a drug by name. Oh, I'd like to take that drug.
So crazy.
And you can come up with, these are the symptoms I have. And yeah. So I think back to the topic at hand. We got 5 minutes left. Any last words you want to leave the listeners?
Sure. If you're out there and you're on the fence about whether or not to go to a comedy show, definitely if you're in the area on Friday the 28th, March 28th, please come to the PM show at 6 p.m. That's when doors open. But also, if you're not in the area and you've been wanting to check out a local comedy show, check it out. And if it's bad, check another one out. I always check 2 or 3 shows out before you make your choice about whether, because a lot of people, they get burnt. They go to a bad comedy show and then they never want to go out again. I'm telling you, it's just like everything else. Sometimes you just have to find the right comedian for you, or the right show, the right venue. Go out there. Comedy, these people want to make you laugh. Please let them.
And I would say that it can be an exercise is to try comedy yourself. Try
Absolutely.
to put together 2 minutes and stand up in front of a group of people and be funny.
Sure.
It's not easy.
Please,
it's not easy.
Please, yeah. I mean, check it out. If you're afraid, be brave. Go out there and speak that unique perspective you have. Your friends are telling you you're funny. Go try it out. And there's nothing wrong with trying it out and then realizing it's not for you, but go out there and see it. Comedy is, it's not like music. You just go out there with your words and express yourself, and maybe you'll gain a new appreciation for stand-up comedy.
And is True Hustle, does that offer any type of improv classes or comedy classes, or is that in the future maybe?
Well, the True Arts will for public schools, but right now a business partner, Anthony Medina, offers one-on-one consultations.
Oh, okay.
Where he'll go through with you, how stand-up comedy works, how to produce your own shows, how to network, how joke writing works. He's a kind of like, that's his own little, that's his forte. He taking people under his wing and mentoring them.
That's very cool. Yeah, I'm going to teach a class on how to make people depressed really fast. 10 minutes of reality. So thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week. I think we got the Kingdom and Knot with Jazz Naz coming up next, either local or from apart. Check us out, radiovalencia.fm, swell.am, and here every Monday, rain or shine.
Die. And why, after every last shot, was there always another? Why, after all you hadn't got, did you leave your life to your mother? And Honey Hollow, the singer burlesque queen, how did she know you needed morphine? Why didn't you listen to the warning words of your friends while they told you so? I know you couldn't listen to people talk about what they didn't know. I've lost a friend and I don't know why. But never again will we get together to die. And why, after every last shot, was there always another? Why, after all you hadn't got, did you leave your life to your mother?